everybody, my name is Kara, and today I'm here with the Terrible Tomes book tag. This tag was created by A Bookish Balance, and I was tagged by the fabulous Olivia from Read by Liv, and I will link both of their channels down below. You guys know I love my rants and unpopular opinions, so I'm pretty excited about this one. Number 1. Can't even. Name a book you DNF'd after a chapter or less. And one I remember doing that with was My Life Next Door by Huntley Fitzpatrick. Now, I can't even really tell you why I DNF'd this one. It wasn't like horribly written or anything, but I remember I decided I was finally going to pick it up because it was a pretty hyped book, I think, at that point, and I don't know if I just wasn't in the mood for it or what, but I read like a page and a half and I was like, no, I don't want to read this. For whatever reason, I was just not having it that day. Number 2, get out of my book. Name a main character you absolutely cannot stand. I'm gonna go with one that I haven't complained about before, and that is the main character from The Mad Scientist's Daughter by Cassandra Rose Clarke. I think that was who wrote it. I hated this girl. I can't even remember her name. I want to say it was like Cassie? Maybe? Anyway, she was fine at the beginning of the book when we see her when she's younger. Like, I thought she was really interesting and she had a lot of potential, and then she just goes on to become the most frustrating human being ever. And this is kind of like, this is a science fiction book, and the thing that I just like cannot overlook for her is the fact that she has sex with this like android kind of person. I don't know what you would call him. She has sex with him before she knows if he is even capable of giving consent or not. Like, she knows, like, she thinks of him as like a person, but she also knows that it's possible for his programming to override what he actually wants. So like, if she tells him to have sex with her, like, he has to do it. She's like thinking that's a possibility, and she doesn't do anything about it. And that just like really pissed me off. I mean, she rapes him, right? Like, she doesn't, like, she knows there's a possibility that he's incapable of giving consent at this point, and she just has sex with him anyway. Number 3, angst, angst, angst. Name a book with a suffocating amount of angst. And I'm going with Dreams of Gods and Monsters by Laini Taylor. Now, I actually really enjoyed this trilogy overall. Like, I still recommend it, but this book in particular, I just was so over the main relationship. Like, the romantic drama and how they would almost be together and then something would come up, and like, it just, there were so many setbacks that it got to the point where I just like didn't even care if they ended up together anymore. And that was like a huge chunk of this book, and I was just so much more invested in the side characters and like side relationships, and just like, oh my god, the drama, like their burning eyes meeting across the room, and I'm just like, we've done this already. Number 4, Once Upon a Time, The End. Name a very poorly written book. I'm going with Traveler by L.E. Delano. I read this one a while ago, and I just really did not connect with his writing style. Like, it was really like clunky and also boring, and it just didn't work for me. And it was especially unfortunate because the main character is like an aspiring author and writer, and I don't remember, I think it was first person. I know for a fact that there were chunks of her writing in the book, and those were also not very good, really. I'm somebody who can definitely get behind a like serviceable kind of writing style. I don't need lots of bells and whistles all the time, but that book was just not good. Number 5, frustrating, bland, unremarkable. Name a book whose characters took away from your reading enjoyment. Going with a recent read, and that is Hotel at the Corner of Bitter and Sweet by Jamie Ford. I talked about this in my most recent wrap-up, which I will link down below, but oh man, I really did not like this book. I thought the concept and like the historical context was so interesting and so important, and it was such an important story to tell, but I feel like that was hindered by the fact that none of the characters had any dimension whatsoever. Like, I talked about in my wrap-up how I could not tell you a single thing about any of the characters after finishing this book. Like, I didn't even know what the main character looked like. Like, I didn't know any personality traits, even like surface level ones. I couldn't tell you anything about them. And I think that when you have a story that's so emotional and so like devastating, you know, about like such an awful period in history, if your characters are really like underdeveloped and bland, it's not going to have the same impact as a story would that did have like fully developed characters. Number 6, have I read you before? Name a book that lacks originality. Falling Kingdoms by Morgan Rhodes. I read this book a couple of years ago because I gave into the hype, and I just really didn't like it. Fantasy is such an amazingly creative genre. Like, there's so much scope there for doing different things, and I feel like the author did nothing different at all. Like, the characters were so like cookie cutter, like they were all just like very generic like archetypes, and the world building was so lazy. It was just like 3 kingdoms and they're slightly different and then they fight. Like, that was it. And I don't know. I've heard that the later books get a lot better, but really did not enjoy anything about that one, so I'm not really willing to continue when I gave the first book 1 star. Number 7, Look What You Made Me Do. Does anyone else think of the Taylor Swift song when they hear that? Is that just me? Name the most useless antagonist ever. I'm going with the assassin character from The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson, because he has to be the absolute worst assassin in the history of literature. And I'm including the Throne of Glass series in that comment, by the way, because he meets the princess that he's supposed to murder, and he like instantly falls in love with her. It's definitely possible for me to be on board with that kind of like relationship trope that starts out with that dynamic, but this was just not done well. It just made him sound like the worst assassin to ever be hired. Like, this guy's supposed to be a professional, and he like sees a pretty girl and he's like, Number 8. What were we talking about again? Name a book you read recently that you can't remember anything about. For me, that's Instead of Three Wishes, Magical Short Stories by Megan Whalen Turner. Now, I absolutely love her Queen's Thief series, but this story collection just did not leave an impression on me. I do slightly remember things about, like, my 2 favorite stories and my, like, least favorite stories. Like, I remember some things about them, but I just, like, I don't know how many of these stories I could even name or like summarize at this point, and I only read this like a month or so ago. Number 9, you can do better than this. Name the worst significant other or worst couple. So one of my least favorite love interests of all time has got to be Merrick from, what was it, in The Hollow Kingdom by Claire B. Dunkel. I actually did a whole rant review and like discussion on that book, so I will link that down below. But basically, he is sexist, abusive, condescending, like he's awful, and we're supposed to find him charming. And it just, like, the whole book just reads like Stockholm Syndrome instead of like a hate-to-love kind of relationship. It's just super uncomfortable, and I hated every minute of it. Number 10. I'm going to pretend that didn't happen. Name the worst character death you've ever read. Maybe a character you liked died a horrible death and they didn't deserve it, or maybe a horrible character died and the way they went was unsatisfying. I'm going with every single character death in Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo. That's another one where I have a full like discussion on that series, so I will also put that link in the description. But yeah, I just some of those deaths made me really angry. I'm not going to give away who it was because of, you know, spoiler reasons, but there was a secondary / side character who I really liked and who I thought we had kind of gotten to the point where they were becoming a member of the like supporting cast, and they were just kind of written off in like half a sentence. And that really pissed me off, as well as some of the lazy ways that character deaths were used earlier in the book. Like, everything about those character deaths still pisses me off. Number 11. Open, rushed, doesn't even make sense. Name an unforgettably horrid ending. My answer is from A Company of Swans by Eva Ibbotson. Now, I've talked before about how much I adore her middle grade or like younger books. I have not read an adult novel by Eva Ibbotson that I have liked yet, and I've read, I think, is it 2 or 3 at this point? But in A Company of Swans, I'm going to full-on spoil this for you guys. So if you really want to read it, then skip this part. But basically what happens is the main character, who is an incredibly talented ballet dancer, and she gets all these opportunities and it's wonderful, and then of course a romance, and of course the guy is like a womanizer who now is like falling in love for the first time, which I hate that. So there's all these like stupid coincidences that happen, and basically she thinks that he doesn't love her anymore or something, and like she gets sent back to her home in England, and her family's like abusive to her. They like lock her up in her like in an attic, and they like refuse to feed her, and she's like slowly dying basically, and like she just barely gets out because of another series, I think, of dumb coincidences, if I'm remembering correctly, where her boyfriend, like this guy who's much older than her, finds out where she is and he like rescues her and blah blah blah. So all of that happens and I'm already irritated, and then we get like a flash forward, and this girl who is so incredibly talented and who like dancing meant so much to her, like ballet was how she escaped from her horrible like family and her home life and all of this. We flash forward and she has given all of that up to have this man's babies, basically. And I just like, I was so furious when I finished that book, because like it's totally possible for people to change their minds about things like that. And you can do that in books too, but you have to make it believable. Like, you have to make the reader feel like, okay, this is what the character wants now. Instead, it was like, oh, she gave up all of her dreams so she could get knocked up by this older man. And it's like we're supposed to believe that it's going to be like a slightly happier ending, because now one of her daughters is like, it's implied that she's going to go on and try to be the like ballet dancer that her mother wanted to be. And I'm like, you know what? You could have done it too. You could have done it too. And I'm getting so mad just like talking about this book, and it's been so many years since I read it. I didn't think I had all this anger still in me, but I did. And finally, number 12 is Can I Throw You at a Wall Now? Name a book that infuriated you. I'm gonna go with Bitter Greens by Kate Forsyth. So, this is a fairy tale retelling of Rapunzel, but there's a lot of other like story elements as well. What made me so angry about this book was the way that sexual assault was used for every single main female character. Every single main character, because I think they were all women. All of them were motivated, or like their backstory or their like villain origin story or whatever. All of it came back to getting raped. And I hate that. I hate that trope when it is used as like the defining feature of a character's backstory, especially when it's a woman, or when it's used as like a shortcut for making them I don't even know what the authors like think that does, if it makes them like more interesting or more like tragic or whatever, but it's just like, it's so lazy and it's so disgusting. I can tell you like every single, I think there were 3 or 4 different female characters, all of them had like this graphic, at least one graphic sexual assault scene that was like the defining point of their character. And actually, one of the characters, her mother was also horribly raped, and the little girl was like under the bed as like man after man raped her and like beat her and abused her and just was like just disgusting things, and like her mother ended up dying later from all of her injuries, and it was just like the most graphically, unnecessarily like violent and gory, and just like I don't understand why it even happened. It was what I think of as like tragedy porn, because there was no reason for all of this to happen. And, you know, if you're writing your story at a certain period in time, yes, those things happen, but to use them to such an extent makes it sound like you don't know how to write if you don't use violence against women. And I don't think that's okay. And I've heard like really amazing things about some of Kate Forsyth's other novels, and I don't know if I'm gonna pick one up, because if she does this again, I don't think I could handle it. Okay everybody, so that was the Terrible Tomes book tag. I hope you enjoyed hearing me rant about some books that really make me angry. I know I feel a little bit lighter now. I'm going to tag Yvette from BookCave and Hannah from Linh Hermione. I might tag a few other people in the description as well, so be sure to check that. And of course, I also tag anyone else who sees this video and who wants to do it. Feel free to say I tagged you. In fact, I am gonna tag you because I love watching this tag, and yeah, I'd love to see some of people's books that make them mad. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you soon with another video, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!